first podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast. In today's podcast, we have, we're going to go in a different direction actually to my usual one, which is just fine because we like to put a twist on everything I do. So I have somebody who actually is a licensed medical patient, legal cultivators, and a caregiver. And she believes in natural healing and medicine. And we're talking marijuana cannabis. Hi, Lorie. How are you doing today?
How you doing, Emma? And thanks for having me.
All right. So, first question. How did you become a medical license patient and you decide to become a legal cultivator and a caregiver?
Well, Missouri became legal 4 years ago. So when it became legal, I went through the process, applied for my medical card, which I applied for. I am disabled, so that naturally kind of puts you in a different category. And then when I applied for my medical license, me being a prior grower and knowing the advantages of it, I also applied for my cultivation license, which was very simple to do. And then that's where the journey began.
Okay, you said you're a prior grower. Do we have to go there for a minute? I would like to go there. What do you mean by your prior grower?
Well, you had to, in the day, you would a lot of people maybe considered it guerrilla growing. You hit a plant off in your closet, nobody ever knew about it, and boy, the skunks was bad that year or something, the essence that would roll through. But and when I was born in 1963, so I went through the whole hippie revolution, the whole jaha of the 70s, and I lived that. So I knew what it did, and I always have had ADD. So therefore, I found long ago with me that was one of the things that calmed me down enough to be functionable to where I did find success in different ways. It may not have been in maybe so much degrees and in applying myself in places like that, but it was success in ways that a little old country girl from middle of Missouri hit the town, did pretty good, I think, with 2 kids, a single mother. I think I was doing all right. I was happy.
Okay, well, that's what matters the most. If you're happy, everything is good, isn't it?
That's it.
So why applying for a license of a caregiver? Why that? Because you could have been just a cultivator, just say, well, I'm going to just get a license to cultivate and that would be fine.
One of the advantages of being a user is to figure out which strains, which directions they go and which way. So that helps you direct people in a way. When you don't actually experience it, it's very hard to say, oh, yes, this is what you need, because this is what's going to help what you're going through, because I've never experienced it. So therefore, all they're doing is just doing what they're told, grow. The big cultivation units, I think the quality really was lacking in them.
Yeah, that's why we talked about it with somebody else, is about comparing the small grower versus the industrial one, where the plant will not produce as well that a smaller one.
Your small growers put the little essence in it called love, which you're not going to get that in a commercial grow. It's just trim, go, get fast as we got to get this done, get it out of here and process it. When you're a cultured grower, and that's what I consider myself, a cultured grower, you get in, you get to know the plant. You don't have to take a picture and say, oh, what do you think? Because everybody's first thing is, oh, it needs CalMag. That's not always necessarily the answer. Just because it tends to have brown spots, they tend to say, oh, yeah, which not saying it doesn't, but if you know the plant, then it makes you kind of laugh when that first reaction comes out of their mouth, when really it's an iron deficiency or a potassium deficiency. There's different signs, but if you don't really get to know those plants, you're not going to see that. You're just going to go with, oh, there's discolor, and everybody says you need CalMag. It's so funny.
So, okay, so the plants are talking. So let's go back to, so you decide to have your license, and what's next? Get some seeds, or how did you get it going? Because this was brand new to the legislation.
Yes.
So
fortunately, I had seeds that I've had for, over the years that I've had. So when I started, I actually had my own seeds. Granted, some of them may have came from things I acquired out on the street and was left in the bottom of the bag or whatever. But, there was some that was, you didn't know what you was growing. But, it was a start. I knew it was all what it had come from. So I knew it was pretty good to start with. So when I first started, I knew that if you're going to indoor grow, to me, a light is a very important thing to have in that. If you don't have light, your plant's going to suffer a lot of ways. You look at a plant is just like us when it comes to our bodies. Our body needs potassium, our body needs calcium, our body needs magnesium, it needs iron. Those are just like those plants. They require all that. They're a living being.
So how do you learn this? How do you learn to make the difference between what the needs of the plants is compared to what the plants need, especially at the beginning? You're an expert, so now it's like you're looking at your plant.
I wouldn't call myself an expert. I just call myself, I spend a lot of time with my plants. And I mean, I'm not always.
Well, that's called an expert in my book. Because you spend a lot of time with your plant, you become an expert at it. You know what I mean? So
that's what it takes. You look at your soils and know, like a lot of people, and it's funny, in the past I had heard people that have mushrooms coming out of their soil, they'd freak out, go dump all their stuff. They had the best soil going, not realizing that's what you needed right there. When you got mushrooms growing, your soil's good.
So what kind of soil did you start it with? Did you just went into the backyard and grab it, or did you went to the store and pick up a specific soil?
When I started, I went all with bagged soil. You can get many kinds. I'm really fond of the Fox Farm ocean soil, and the reason is I read up on it. It really helps any pH imbalances kind of naturally. Yep. Of course, it's oceanic, and I like fish. Fish shit's probably one of my most favorite things I add to each and every one of my plants. I feel like what it does to the plant is just amazing. So I believe in like fish emotions. I think that is a real good asset, something to give your plants.
Okay.
There's a whole lot of nutrients in worm castings. I get worm castings from a here in Missouri. It's called Worm Poupon. They feed their worms. They have their worm poop has actually got nutrients in it. With that and good soil and aeration with your perlite, you don't need to worry about a whole lot of nutrients because it's already naturally provided in there.
Oh, that's great. So the first year you started and you got your license, so you start your own plants. Did you advertise so people know you were a caregiver or not, or you just mind your own business?
No, of course, that process takes a minute because you had to read up. And when it first started in the caregiving part of it, it was a lot more to the process. And now, kind of getting to where I'm understanding how the whole process works, it's become a lot easier. I mess things up, so I don't want to say this is how it, the law
No.
is here. Yes, because I know, but I don't know enough to be saying, yeah, that's 100% the truth.
No, but you just talked about, it's not much about what you know, it's about the journey you got there, because
Yeah.
as
You
somebody who
mess
wasn't a caregiver, you become one. You got to follow the rule and regulation, which can be cumbersome, confusing. They're updating it all the time. So
Yeah.
we all make mistakes. We cannot
And
say
one
we're
of the
perfect.
things is you really got to get personal with the people you're taking care of, because you really got to learn what's really alien, because some of the things that they're looking for help is going to be more long term, and some things you benefit more out of an edible than you do for, say, smoking or vaping, or however, edibles tend to do more in like a joint, like if you're suffering from a lot of joint pain and stuff, sleep that the desperate, being sleep deprived.
Deprivation, yeah.
Yep, you take an edible, you're going to feel that, and that's going to relax more your body. You're not going to get, I think a lot of people, they're just thinking they're going to get this giant, enormous buzz, and it's not like that. It's really, you are, because you're starting to feel good. So your enormous buzz is just that adrenaline from finally getting relief in your body to the freely move, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So how did you learn the edible? Because you jumped into the edible world. So at the beginning, were you aware of the edible, or were we just doing growing? Okay.
Yeah.
That's a dumb question I asked right now, and I'm going to keep this one on record, actually, because you're from the 70s era, so edible was already there.
I've been making, back in the day, and when I got married in like 78.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things me and my husband would do. Back in that day, you'd go throw you a couple plants out in the woods somewhere, and then you just wouldn't go back till 6 months later, and then it'd be done, and then you just chop your things. Well, then at that point, that's when I'd keep all those extra leaves, and I'd cook it down. At that point, I used a crock pot and butter. And somebody told me you'd put it in crock pot and butter and let it cook all weekend. And boy, howdy, did we ever have stuff. It was like brownies that finally didn't have chunks of greens and sticks. And it was really, then I started making chocolate chip cookies, and that was what everybody got to say, bring cookies.
Nice. So you started the cookies. So fast forward, now because you were already doing it. So now you're doing your baking, you're doing your not zucchini bread, but the banana breads, you do all of this. Did you when you're doing those, do you have to measure everything? How do you do it? Because I have no idea.
Yeah, what you do is you're going to follow a recipe for what it is. If that recipe calls for a fourth a cup of shortening, you're going to just take a fourth a cup of oil. Now, remember, if it calls for shortening and you're dealing with oil, you're going to have to cut back on some moisture somewhere because of the oil.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't realize that, you got to really kind of compensate. But you make it just easy. I do a lot of, I make RSO, where I'll take, I've got a magic butter machine. I love it. I take and I'll make tinctures, and the tinctures are your grain alcohol. And then once I'll reduce that, like when I get ready to use it, this is what I use in my gummies, and I'll use it in different things, but it's just the RSO. And you'll take, and I've got just a pan I use for that, and I'll dump that in there, and it just slowly evaporate that, and it'll turn into like molasses. It's like a molasses looking substance. Okay. And then you just dump, like at the gummies, it's after you've already got it ready and you're right at the end. I dump it right at the end because you're really not wanting to heat. You always want to do it on low heat. You want to keep it below 180. even when you're evaporating, 160 is my height. Yes, it takes a long time, and you're going to get there, and you're going to stir, but you'll find you won't kill as many of your terpenes and stuff out that way.
What else do you cook?
Oh, I make banana bread, blueberry bread, brownies, cookies of any flavor, snickerdoodles, black and white chocolate are my most favorite of mine. I make just plain old chocolate chip cookies. Kind of depends on my mood. I mean, there's a lot of times just when I'm cooking and if I'm feeling a little extra, not feeling so hot, I just dump a little oil in my food. Like if I make a salad, I like a vinegar and oil type dressing.
Yeah.
I'll just do that. And then, I might chop a few leaves if I had it in there and just eat my salad,
Nice.
And then about 45 minutes later, I thought, yep, I might need to go take a nap now. But I also infuse oil. And when I do my oil, what I use is coconut oil and sunflower oil.
Okay.
I use half and half. It kind of helps blend it a little better to where, like, when you're cooking, it don't just burn.
Okay, because what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, a lot of that. And it also makes it to where, I mean, I've got one of the gentlemen I take care of. He likes just doing the oil drops. When he works, he hauls furniture and he gets to get in a bad spot. He hauls that little jar of oil with him. And he'll just take a couple of droppers under his tongue, and he said he'll be a new man in about 45 minutes.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So how long you said you have been licensed?
Licensed, I've been licensed since it was legalized in Missouri in 4 years ago, actually. Okay. It might have been 3 years ago. Got to remember, I'm old and I forget dates, and that's one of my downfalls. Got to remember, I'm a 1963 model, but I do have extended warranty.
That's good.
Even though that warranty covers my mouth and my ass, it's all right.
That's good.
And,
covering your brain.
I come in this world naked, wet, and afraid. I figure I'll probably go out naked, wet, and afraid. So
well, that's how we go. That's why we come. That's how we go. Unless people have a better idea, I don't think so. So I think we answered that question. If people has any question like that. So how did you get clients? Because you are licensed, and now how the word of mouth came out for people to request your product or your help?
That's it. Most of it's from word of mouth that it'll come from. Of course, in Missouri, you can only have so many caregivers, but I have a lot of people that'll ask me, which way to go, what I feel like might help them, help them the most. It's a lot of them, I don't know if they really understand how the whole cannabinoid system and things like that work, because if something's not working for you, then you've probably not got the right strain. If you're smoking and getting paranoid, that's not for you, because that's not what it does to you. That's a sign that there's something there.
Yes, it's like everything else. It's like the test. If it doesn't suit you and it makes you, like you said, paranoid or anything like that, that's mean that string, don't use it. This is bad for you. It's like, I think I'm going to make a reference many years ago. We're coming back from Maui. So that was over 2 decades ago. And we missed the plane. Don't miss the plane. We did. And the plane didn't left ground. They just didn't want it to get us in, because I believe they gave us it to somebody else. So we had to wait 24 hours to take the next plane, which was very frustrating, especially when you learn always carrying a set of extra clothing on a handbag right away. So that's what I do since then. But when I came back, we came back very early in the morning. I had some appointment I had to go to. So I drink coffee in the Sumatra. For 2 days, I did not sleep. coffee, then I will not drink again. Same thing here with the cannabis, different story. But if you turn paranoid, if you're not feeling good, that means the strain you're using is not for you.
That's right.
Sumatra, we're not gonna do it again.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people say, "Oh, I'll never." I said, "Well, then it wasn't. You didn't have what was right for you. And that's what's real important. This person's going to get to be a caregiver. They really need to get to know their people." And kind of know exactly what they're, some people, they think they want something, and then really if they achieve what they think they want, it scares them, and that's not really where they was meant to be.
So the question I have, because different strain, and there is millions of different strains going on around here. So how do you educate yourself? Because the education is one thing, making understand the patients. And I would say the general population, what, when you get a bad trip, why? But the other thing too is how, as a caregiver, can you get the right education to bring it to your clients? Because your patients need some specific help, but how do you do that?
There's a lot of things that a lot of it's been through trial and error with my own self, knowing what, and I always start this out with somebody, well, this works with me, but now that may not work for you. And usually I know if that doesn't work for them, then they needed the other. You know what I'm saying? It's usually like an opposite. So it's kind of like a little, biggest thing is getting to know your people, because like I said, everybody's different. And their perception of, when somebody tells you they're in pain, well, their perception of pain may not be nothing more than an itch on your back. But that's not their perception of pain, is that itch on their back, where other people, they tend to have excruciating pain and they want to convince you it's like an itch on their back.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of a reverse psychology effect. I read a lot of, I listen to a lot of videos. A lot of it's just through my own I've traveled a lot. I've talked to a lot of people in my lifetime. I've gotten to know. I was very outgoing, very personal. I'm not so much now, but back in the day, I was like, just got to know everybody. And, I was always happy, upbeat. It seemed like I was included in a lot of things. So it was, I lived a good life. I had a lot of fun in my life. But I could talk about. It's hard to believe. And some of the stories I tell, everybody thinks I'm lying, but I laugh because I'm not. It's like, what? Nope, it really happened.
That's awesome. So you've been a caregiver for 5 years. Why choosing caregiver, even though you had ADHD and you find a way for you to be able to live with it via marijuana? But why caregiver? Why doing it? Because most people said, well, I have my grower's license, so why am I just going to grow and sell it, and that will be just it? Why this extra step?
It's my person. I'm that type of person. I'm a person. I nurture things. I feel a need to take care of things. So that's just my way of giving back, because it's awful nice to have somebody reassure you that you might get some relief from something you have really hurt with or bothered with for a long time. And sometimes that getting to that step of relief, and it's like I said, it may not be one strain. Just like myself, I smoke many strains throughout the day, but that's what it takes for me at the end of the day to achieve what I've achieved through the day, is through the different strains I've combined it through the day. One may take me up a little bit more, and the other one brings that anxiety level down, or that antsiness. Like I said, I have trouble. They call me Squirrel. Okay. I mean, my gosh, who gets named Squirrel at the age of 1? So and I've always been called Squirrel. And that's, my dad used to say, I swear to God, Lorie, you're going to get in the middle of the street and you ain't never going to make up your mind. You're going to get smacked right in the middle of a Mack truck. I about have a couple times.
That's funny. You're cultivating. So how many plants because you're a cultivator, you have been doing it for years. How many plants, because you're cultivators, how many plants do you care at time? Because, we're talking about big productions that doesn't give the love, but for you, when you're cultivating the plants, what is the maximum you have care and feel like after a certain number, it's like, yeah, that is too much. I cannot give the love and the attention of every single plant.
Most of the time I probably have 18 plants, either transitioning or into flower, or I like to kind of go in waves to where certain things take longer. That goes back to that process. You're going to have some things they're going to flower 6-7 weeks. They're going to be done. You're going to have something that's going to take maybe 14. I mean, it just takes a longer period for them to get done, get ready.
Okay, so about 18 plants is what, 18 to 20 plants
And
is
that's
basically
if I'm
ideal.
fully with all my caregivers, and that's with myself and 2 patients to care for. And how Missouri law works for that is if you're a caregiver for a patient, basically what you're doing is you're requiring their cultivation license. So that means you're allowed 6 flower, 6 clones, 6 veg. So that means once you take on a care patient, that just upped your 6 to 12. And then if you add on your 3rd patient, that just ups your 6 to 18. So
Okay.
that's your max amount. But you can always have them, but they have to be in stages.
Yes, they have to be in different stages. Wow, that's interesting. That's kind of a headache.
Yeah.
To start at the beginning, it must have been a headache to start all of this and say, okay, which stages am I at and this and that. It's like, okay, it could be a challenge at time. So
it's probably financially is probably the biggest hurdles are to get the stuff that really give you the ability to produce good quality stuff is very high priced. It's like most average people that do this, they're on disability or they're low income, or they don't have them high corporate jobs. They go, yeah, we can go spend $5,000 on a light setup. Everybody'd love to do that, but it's just not feasible for most home growers.
So what do they do if they cannot? Because yes, I'm looking at some of the lights and I saw some of the pictures. When you see those are specific lights. So if you don't have the money, what do you do? Or what kind of fixtures do you use? Because do you use LED? What do you use?
I'm going to tell you, there's many groups that people could get involved in. And there's lots and lots of people that are involved in these groups. And if they really wanted to get set up, you would have these groups that would come in and they would get them started, and they would set them. They wouldn't get them like no big gigantic, but they would get them a setup for them to start and to start creating and to help build for their dreams. So it's just a matter, when people set back, you also have to get out and you have to look, because there are things out there. A lot of people by this point have took so much advantage of a lot of the people that did that. It takes time. So when they see somebody genuinely struggling and really wanting to be successful, you've got a lot of people out there that would be willing to help get them started. And
because sometimes
you don't always have to go start, from the top. Sometimes it's just like life. We have to start at the bottom and just keep working. Well, okay, this is good to start with, but by gosh, I'm going to save up so I can get this, because that's where I want to be. And then once you get that, then you figure out, oh no, well, I'm going to save up some more so I can get this is what I want to see.
Yeah, but for the people who cannot have those groups and cannot participate in those groups and know a little bit more, what kind of light? And I know the fans. So I just want to talk about the basics. I'm not going to say how to set up your own cultivation. But what kind of lights is used? Because we're talking, you got LED right now, you got different kind of light. What is the plants likes the most?
What I have used from the time I've started growing is a Mars Hydro 3000.
Okay.
And I, from start to finish, I just adjust the height of the light. And it to me, there are a lot better lights out there, but for what it does for the price, it was feasible for somebody that had a lower budget and would allow them to be very successful in their grow.
Well, yeah, because you got also the difference to grow outside and indoor, which makes a huge difference as well, because outside it depends on the weather actually and where you live. But
your outdoor plants will have a whole different flair than the indoor plants. Of course, you got Mother Nature outside. So
yes,
of course you're going to have a lot nicer, nicer. That's what they was designed to do. So but, I see some pretty phenomenal growers that have made some amazing indoor grows. I just like, wow, some of them are just amazing. They're out there. And, the groups, the groups usually aren't that hard to get into. It's usually just a matter of hitting that join button, answering the simple questions, and boom, then you just start interacting.
Well, that sounds easy, but sometimes when you don't know how to grow and you need somebody who has the expertise, you might not have the right question either, which makes it harder.
My opinion, most people overthink everything, and I will go back to this. It's a weed. You got to remember,
I like the fact it's a weed. People remember that. It's a weed.
If you start overthinking a weed,
yeah.
I mean, you can make some fabulous looking weeds that can become deadly.
Yes.
But you also can make some, it's just, most people overthink it. It's like I said, best advice I can do is get your hands dirty, get in there, and don't beat it. Don't feel bad because you killed it or you made a mistake. You strive to figure out, okay, what did I do wrong? Maybe I overwatered it. Or maybe I didn't give it enough light. So next time let's try this.
Yes.
So, and a lot of times if a grower's coming in and you must, clones are readily available, which is basically a rooted start. So it's just like buying a tomato plant. You have when you go up there and you'll buy a tomato plant, you just got a rooted plant that you stick in the dirt. So, there's a lot of options to help people that are struggling. And, and if people aren't wanting to talk and help them, then they're not talking to the right people.
Okay.
I really believe that. There's nothing to hide. There's no science. Of course, the more you study, that goes back to the love of the plant. The more you study, the more you'll see. You'll start learning that some soils are a lot better than other soils, or some soils will help adjust things that may be wrong with your water, or, there's a lot of that's just on your own, taking the rein and going. I have trouble reading because I can't stay and concentrate long enough. I'm one of them. I'd start reading a paragraph. Well, then all of a sudden I'm worried about what I'm going to have for supper next Thursday. Like that has anything to do with what I'm doing. And all of a sudden I'm all enwined in that supper. I can't even tell you what I was reading. So that's why I do a lot of the listening. I'll listen to audibles and and see, I can do that and still piddle around and do my stuff. And I listen about, like plant nutrients, different, it's all over. Just have to go in there and play. I hate to say it, just ask Google.
Exactly. That's what I do too. I say, if I don't find it, I ask Google. So I Google a lot of stuff because that's how I found a lot of stuff.
Right, but I just love it.
No, but you have an opinion, on Google, and you can pick it up and figure it out. There is some stuff that how to. I'm like, okay, let's go and Google
Remember, it's not always right. So, I usually compile a bunch of information information, and then I just kind of suck out of each thing what I liked out of it.
Yeah,
And then if
what
what I
resonates.
liked wasn't right, then I'll excavate it out and kind of suck something else back in and try that till it just kind of clicks.
Yeah, it does. It
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense.
Another thing is I mock as much as the natural. If we're getting a thunderstorm outside, I love to put the rainforest sounds or any thunderstorm on so that the plants inside having the same, as they're in the veget state, I will heavy mist them at times and play the like it's raining and you want to mock is natural environment, I believe, as much as
Oh
possible.
wow, I like that because there was some scientific research about that actually. When you're plant listening to music, it's all based on vibration and how a plant will flourish if you talk to them or listen to positive music, and if it's negative, then they will not grow, they will die. So it's nice to know that you nurture your plants so they give the best that they can give, which is nice, and you're nurturing them actually. It's not a mass production, which is good.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
When it comes for medical, I think that it is good to have cultured growers that really take the time and I think they find they have more satisfied patients.
Well,
Like
the quality is different. The quality is higher because the plant produces at its best. The plant will give you the best than compared to a mass production where the human touch is not there. So the plant will not produce as much or will produce the minimum, but will not give its best. That's wonderful. So you're producing year-round, I'm assuming?
Pardon me, I didn't.
You're producing year-round. That's mean you're planting, you're always cultivating year-round?
Yeah. I've always.
You never go on vacation?
Obligation.
No, vacation.
I do have Dirty Head. What is it? Dirty Heads has a song out, Vacation. That's my new. And then I have a backup to that. It's called When I Come Around. It's an old one.
Okay. So you're always there for your plant and your patients, which is awesome. And are you expanding, or you only keep it with 2 clients at a time, 2 patients?
You can only legally have your 2.
Oh, that's it. So that's limited. Thank you. I didn't know that. As I said, I am not a cultivator. I am not medical.
My understanding, they are going to change that. They're fixing to redo that to where they have more cultured growers that can keep the upscale medical part of it.
Well, yeah, because I'm thinking if as a cultivator and as a patient care, you can only have 2 patients. What happened to the rest of the people living in Missouri in pain or need assistance because you only can take care of 2 at a time, which is very limited. We don't ask you to have 10,000 at the door, but I will not be surprised if they do that. They will knock at your door. But I'm like, wow, that's very limiting when it comes down to patients. And for the rest, so you need to have a lot of cultivators to help just 2 patients at a time, which is like, whoa, okay. Yeah. It's not much.
No, then like I said, they're fixing to do some changing to, like I said, Missouri is still basically new. They're still test driving a lot of options. They haven't locked nothing in for like, this is it. It's everything has options. So, and I can say it does seem like they seem to be really worried about the medical patient, wanting them to get the highest quality. I had heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but from out of state facilities that was having trouble with things like white mold, and they were selling that to the dispensaries and
wow,
and causing problems. And like I said, I don't know. I don't know if it's true, but you hear things through the grapevine. And if that's true, I would much rather have me a personal caregiver, just like what we're doing. At least I know And if I got something, and a lot of times it's like something ain't working, I'll say, well, how about I just make you up some edibles or something? How about we do this? And I also I make dabs and I smash my own live resin.
Okay, so question for you, for the edibles, can you sell it to anyone, or it's always has to be for medical patients, or can you sell it to anyone that would like to have
It's
edibles?
just for your patients. You
So it's
legally
only,
you don't sell anything, and everything is basically based on a donation. So it's not like
so do you do donation?
I can do donations, yes. I think everybody should be able to see, where the glitches is everybody should be able to sample something to see if they like it.
Well, yeah, because that makes it a little bit harder if, let's say, something doesn't work, or you need to come to your place and just say, okay, can I try this and see how it works? Because buying something you don't know if it will work, not fair.
That's it. And
Mhm.
a lot of them misguide. I say they judge, they will take themselves. And like I said, and people that really don't know, they just take everybody. Well, if you take somebody that's an all day, everyday smoker, they're going to require something a lot harder probably than somebody that's just here and there.
Yep.
So they can really mislead people into that. That's where I go into that paranoia part of it.
Yeah.
Where,
well, but you know what? It's good to hear it, because not everybody understands that. I did not until today, actually. Some people who have a bad trip and it's like, okay, I turned me to paranoid. I will never do that, because you got the wrong strain. That doesn't mean the marijuana wasn't that good. It means your body did not like what it got because that wasn't for your body. Now, I say that, I will put the disclaimer and said, okay, people, it's not because you got a bad trip, then you're going to go and say, oh, it must say you can go and smoke everything around. That's not true. But it's an educational side of it that people don't know.
That's it. It's in anything, it's like when you go to the doctor and they give you a new medicine and all of a sudden you start having headaches or anything. Well, that's a red flag. Either you're having an allergic reaction, or there's no reason you should ever feel like you're dying. Or I kind of laugh at a lot of those memes, and you'll see them where they've had these edibles ain't nothing, and they'll be out in the middle of a water or something. It's like, well, these edibles ain't nothing. It's snowing and they're out in the middle of the river or something. It shouldn't be like, that's not really, it's kind of sad because they're really kind of giving you a false betrayal. Some people get like that. It's because they do too much, but
exactly. Or some, instead of taking a half gummy, they took 2 of them because they said, that's small, so who cares? And then by the time they are done, they are, like you said, in the middle of the river or middle of the road. We don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something. So it's ridiculous. But
sometimes with the clothes off, it's
exactly. Oh, well, that would be even better. Here we go, bad rock for marijuana. Here we go, run naked in the middle of the highway. Great. That's exactly what we don't want. But at least we're highlighting some of the aspects of the marijuana that people don't understand. And the fact that as a caregiver and only 2 patients, so I'm assuming other states have a limitation as well as patient when you become a caregiver. But I like your story because through experience, you've been able to help people. And that to me is a great way. Knowing
really build a relationship with the people I do take care of. So I know it's just like one, I can tell, like I said, he likes the oil. So I usually make sure he always has oil, and he likes to have a certain one of his breads at night before he goes to bed. So I always make sure he has that on hand. There's different things. You try to accommodate him. There's more to it than, well, here's your stuff. See you later. Bye.
Exactly. And that's what the assumption is, because if you go to, and I have nothing against the dispensary, but if you go to a dispensary, this is pretty much what you're going to get. They said, okay, you're buying, you have a nice day, but they probably don't have that extra touch than you do and attention that will make sure your patients are taken care of properly. Because again, this is holistic. This is like taking a medication and you're going to see the doctor and there is some side effects and you're going to get some side effects and you need to know what works and doesn't work. Definitely.
And there's a lot of herbs out there that really is more beneficial for your body than I suffer from COPD and allergies and stuff real bad, and I started taking this mullein. That's all it is a herb, and it's been a blessing to me. It's cleared my lungs up. I just like roll through it. So I take it religiously every day. I used to just boil me a tea. It really made a really nice, you just take, the old dried herbs, and I would take, let's see, what did I put with it? Anyway, I'd mix them and I'd just make like a little light tea, and it was really good.
Yeah.
That's why I started taking it. And then I started getting the capsules because I was about to tea myself out. It tastes bad, but you can only drink so much tea. And I think by that point I'd had a couple gallons, so I was plenty teed up. So I thought,
Yep.
I'll try the pills. But and I can tell if I go and I don't take those, and they're just like it's an herb capsule. And I could tell if I miss a day, I can feel my chest start feeling feeling heavy and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in them. I push them too.
Well, I think the holistic way, I'm a pro holistic, sorry people, but my body likes holistic more than like the regular, because when I was younger, I took a lot of, I don't know, I think we were an experiment actually, because I'm a child of the 60s too. So
there you go.
And I believe we were an experiment. And
everything. Look at the things. We had
we survived a bunch of stuff.
Who teases kids with sugar cubes?
Yeah, I know. And the most interesting part of it, we survived all of it. And you're reading now, we went back a few years ago, and we're reading the contraindication of every single one of them, the side effects. I'm like, good Lord, we didn't lost any neuron on those, but it was just like, we felt like an experiment. So chemically wise, we're good people. But I like the holistic approach, which is a smoother approach, but the marijuana has so much to heal. Because I talked to some of the people, and they gave me the reason why did they start it. Why is the reason to go to the marijuana? Why the reason to planting it? Why the reason to really be involved with that plant? And it's all come down to, well, I had somebody who has Alzheimer, I had somebody who had Parkinson, I had somebody who had cancer. It all started because of a illness, or most of them started because of a illness, and exploring what holistic way they could approach with that illness. So that's what I like. It's the holistic ways as much better than the chemical way, because you don't have to deal with those horrifying side effects that sometimes we are being pushed to have. And it's like, I don't want this, but that's going to cure this, but I don't want the other one.
My mother, she went to, she had arthritis really bad, and she had surgery, and they messed her hands up, and she was having really bad time. And my sister found a holistic doctor in Vegas. So her and my mom fly out to Vegas to this doctor. And do you know, a year later, they cured her to where she never, whatever they done to her, she never had I never heard her complain again about her hands and those things. But she went out there, they went out there for like 2 years, and she come back and she's giving herself shots. And I'm like, Mom,
what are you doing with those needles?
But whatever, that, and they was a firm believer in that. That's what they said. And my sister had Lyme's disease, and was having all kinds of problems with her. And then they took her to that doc. That's how come she and her mom went to Vegas to that doctor, and he did miracles on him. And as far as I know, she's not ever had any more problems. She gets out in the sun, and she's pretty active.
Well, that's why. And I think, because the pharma, and that's why we talked about the marijuana, and I've learned more in the past 5 months than I've learned in the past 5 decades about the marijuana. But at least education started to come out. That's why when I do my podcast, I like to know so people can be educated, because I have recognized, I have said that on multiple of my podcasts, when you think about dispensary and marijuana, I think about pothead getting high. There is
Yeah.
more to it because that plant is a
Oh.
holistic plant.
When I'll never forget, I was 13 years old the first time I smoked a joint with my cousin, and he got it from a kid at school. Of course, he was like 2 or 3 years older than me.
Yeah.
We smoked that, and I said, "Oh my God!" My dad said, "We're gonna want to fly like a bird and jump off the top of the barn if we smoke this." He said, "Oh, come on." So we smoked that. I can remember we sat in the woods all day, laughed. We had more fun that day. And I said that was where the journey began. And it was all on this art link letter. Every morning I woke up here and don't smoke marijuana. It will make you jump off a building and think you have wings. Dads, don't let your daughters out there with them long-haired hippies. I remember all that. You remember art link letter? Boy, that was
This
a
is
big
so
thing.
funny.
His daughter had done acid. And that was what had happened. Was in college, and when they did acid, I guess she had jumped off the building at the college. But that was acid. That wasn't pot.
Yes, exactly. So,
But then it all
wow.
turned into that. I'll never forget my dad saying that. It'll make you jump off the barn. So hey, I waited all day to jump off the barn. I was going, man, I don't feel like I want to jump off a barn. I said, I want some of grandma's cooking. Let's go see what she's got in there.
Oh, and it never jumped off the barn.
Never jumped off the barn, but we sure ate a lot of food.
Oh, this is so funny. I love it. No, but that was a good talk we got today. It was very interesting because you opened some doors and understanding about the medical portion of it, how to take care of your plants as well, because you need the love, you need the human touch.
That's right.
And that's something that is good. And that's what people need to understand. Nothing about big productions, but it doesn't give you the same result of the quality of the plant.
That's it.
I love it. Well, thank you for today for participating on the podcast. Wim, we're going to probably have you back for a second episode because I want to talk more about recipes and infused butter, oil, or how to cook it, because I'm curious about that, the process to do it. And since you have been doing it for many, many years, I want to know more about it.
Yo, I can show you. It's really not as hard as you think. Everybody thinks everything's hard.
Well, this one, I don't know, because it sounds a little bit complicated. It feels like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this and that? So
and most people intimidate people because their fear factor of them being more successful. I think that's where a lot of people's holdback is just that intimidation factor that's been put onto them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's me. I just believe it. They don't like it. Sweat on them up, bro. You didn't like me before, so what's the matter if you like me now? So, get your little self on down the road. We'll sit here and laugh and jump off the barn after you're gone.
But no, I want to know a little bit more about that side of it too, because the cultivation is one thing, but the infuse, because a lot of people are doing it. They do infuse wine, infuse whatever they want to infuse, everything they can infuse. But I'm curious to know more about this and the cooking side of it, because you're making bread as well. So it's very interesting to know how do you do that? How is it cooked a normal way? Is it cooked differently? So it's just, how do you do that and add the oil or the butter, or if there's any other way you're doing the cooking without the oil and the butter. So I'm curious to know, because I know a lot of people are talking about the oil and the butter, but I'm like, and you always need to have that. Or can you cook just the leaf directly in there and that gives the same result? Or what do we got? So
see, I even make a can of sugar too. I infused some good herb, and I had vanilla beans, and I infused the vanilla beans in with that, and I used that to add for placement of vanilla in my recipes.
Wow. Okay, well, we're gonna talk more about that, guys. So if you're on our next podcast with Lorie, will be sometime next month, which should be not that far long because we're at the end of the month here in July. In August, we will have Lorie coming back and talk more about that. So thank you so much, Lorie, for sharing your story today. And that will be, stay tuned because she's coming back for talking about the food part of it next time.
Well, thanks, Emma. You have a good day.
You too.
Emma's Universe.